Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to the Krista Chronicles, and today I wanted to join in on a tag just created by Dawn Michelle and Tegan from Cosmic Creeper. They put this out last week, or within this last week, right? Yes. Right? Yes. Not that it matters. Anyway, and I saw just the two titles of their videos and was like, oh, yes, 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 yes. This is so exciting. And then I saw it was like a tag with questions, which is just my favorite kind of tag when there's questions. I love it. And I just love this topic. So, as you can tell from the title, we're doing the hashtag villain era decks. Now I love this whole concept, and I love too how both Dawn Michelle and Tegan started out their videos with how villain era kind of shows up in their own lives, or just like what it means to them. So we're gonna start there. Villain era. And of course, I watched both videos, so I am getting my idea of this from both Tegan and Dawn Michelle, but kind of the gist of it as I see it and make sense of it within my own world is this idea of, Dawn Michelle said it's not this you're having this moment of being a villain. It's reclaiming, she phrased it as reclaiming things that are usually vilified. And I love that. And I kind of feel like I don't know if I would say I am in a moment of that right now, but in that period of time where I'm like, it's like I'm building up to that, I see that coming, where it's just like working through all these things, these ways of being that one way or another, you could say society at large is kind of like, I don't know about that. That doesn't follow our rules. And so this shows up a lot for me in my whole unmasking journey, because really, unmasking is really needing to reclaim a lot of things that get vilified, of just not fitting the quote-unquote norm in some way. And so, not a very good definition I just gave you, but definitely I'm going to link both Dawn Michelle and Tegan's videos below. If you haven't seen those, I highly recommend. They do a better job at explaining it, but I figured it might just be more benefit to add kind of how I feel I see that going on in my life. And it really comes up for me a lot in my unmasking journey, because like I said, it's a lot of being in this stage of learning new things about myself, having to accept that it's not what I have been taught to do, look, act like, and learning how to embrace that and to also show that to others. Whole scary thing. And so this idea of being in a villain era, I think just, I don't know, makes it feel so fun. And giving it this kind of title makes it feel so fun. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about this idea. But anyway, there are questions to go with this, and I'm gonna do this in the way Dawn Michelle did it, where for each question, I'm gonna show two decks. And I stuck to tarot. I feel like I could do this whole video over again with Oracle, but I wanted to stick to tarot just to, like, I don't know, narrow it down a little bit for myself. But I am also one who really likes to use decks in kind of two different directions depending on my mood. Like, I'm gonna, for lack of better phrasing, call it like the serious work kind of decks and then the play decks. Now, both I feel get at whatever we want to consider serious work, but it's just the vibe. So, not labeling any decks a certain way per se, other than it's just the vibe and the mood I'm in. And also to say that, like, feeling like something that, is for play is really important, I think. I think it's just really important to have just fun with these things we're doing, and to not, sometimes I just don't want to get bogged down in, like, the feeling like it's such serious work. So anyway, I decided I was going to do that as well. So we're going to start with the quote-unquote more like serious work deck, and then we're going to follow it up with the play deck that fits into each of these categories. Now that I've been talking for a million years, let's get into the first prompt. So, this is a deck that helps to break free from expectations. And so my serious work deck I have for this is the Abyssal Tarot by Shelley Corbett. I'm going to give a nudity warning now, as I always do whenever I show this deck, because it's all over the place. There's a lot of nudity in this. Okay. So I think, and you know what, that's actually where I'm going to start with this deck. I love this tarot so much. I use this deck a lot for this kind of idea of feeling like I need to really break free from something, let go of an expectation I'm having for myself. That's a big thing that comes up with this sort of idea for me. And I think why I go to this deck so much for this sort of topic is, for starters, the nudity. And I think I keep saying for starters. For one, a lot of the times, like, heavy nudity in decks, it's not off-putting to me, but it does feel a little uncomfortable to me. Not in a horrendous way, like I'm like needlessly putting myself through feeling weird. That's not it. But more so that I can recognize, like, oh, this is causing me some discomfort. And I know it's from a place of that, obviously, especially these are photographs, so this is like real people, when they're posing nude in this way, that's really, really vulnerable, and it's really breaking free from expectation. To really, like, for lack of better words, like, be putting it all out there and just be this vulnerable. And that's really what this deck brings to the table for me. It is like raw vulnerability. This is what's happening. This is who I am. This is, again, for lack of better words, the naked truth. And I just love this deck for that. It's gorgeous. Also, the underwater feature of it naturally makes it feel really, like, steeped in emotion, which, you know, breaking free from expectations, at least I have found, has, you know, been very emotion heavy. Like, it's brought up a lot of strong emotions and big emotions that have kind of been under the surface that I just didn't even know were there, of just kind of spending a lifetime so far, or life so far, I should say, just knowing I didn't quite fit a certain mold, but not knowing why until now. And so this deck really, really helps with the kind of work around breaking free of expectations, and I think it's really that vulnerability piece. So that is my first deck, the Abyssal Tarot. Beautiful. Now, when I want to get into this kind of topic, but want to do it in a more playful way, I'm going to bring out the Steven Universe Tarot. Now, I have two of these. Not of this particular deck, two Steven Universe decks. So this is a majors only deck, but then I also have the Future Vision Gem Tarot, which is a full tarot. I just tend to prefer the artwork in this one. I like the Future Vision Gem Tarot. I think they do a good job. But I think when I have a fandom deck, like if it's a fandom of a cartoon, I feel like I want the images to be, like, as true to the show images as possible. Of course, I realize, like, unless you have the copyright for it, that's not completely possible. Like, so I'm okay with also, like, an artist's flair on it, but I think the Future Vision Gem Tarot, in my, truly just my opinion, I think it just takes it really far off of what the characters look like. And just for me personally, that's jarring. but I still like it. But we're gonna look at this one because if I want Steven Universe energy, this is the one I really like. We're gonna open it from the bottom because, I don't know, it's got this cute little star sticker on it. I don't want to break that. Anyway. Oh, and she is still in order. I didn't even realize that. This is a deck I had a long time ago and ended up, it was out of print for quite some time, so I ended up gifting it to, or like maybe selling it to someone else because they had a friend who really wanted it so badly. Anyway, whatever. Besides the point. But I recently got it back in my collection because of what I was just talking about with the other one of like, it just didn't feel like it was hitting the same. So it came back in print. So yeah, so we have it again. And I love this. I love this Majors Only deck. But anyway, back to the point. Breaking free of expectations. Of course, like with my tarot, I'm gonna bring in all the other things I like, and that includes cartoons. And when it comes to breaking free of expectations, my mind always goes to Steven Universe, which is one of my favorite cartoons. I just feel like, in so many different ways, this show really tackles that idea and the challenges that come with breaking free of expectations. Because when it comes down to it, pretty much every character in this show is in this process of breaking free of expectations. With our main character, Steven, who starts out as this little boy who has a gem but doesn't know how to use the power, is half human, half crystal gem, which is the magical beings in this world, and he is being trained by 3 other crystal gems, and he battles a lot of like not really because he's both human and crystal gem, not feeling like he fits in one place or the other, and battling with the fact that his powers don't show up in the way they are expected to. He can't summon it and control it in the way that it is expected to be controlled. And so it's like all of these things really just make him this being all his own, and there's no one who can really teach him per se, because it's such a unique experience. And just watching that unfold throughout the show, it just, I don't know, when I saw Breaking Free of Expectations, my brain instantly went to this, because I'm focusing on the main character, Steven, here, and I think also because he's a character that is filled with so much hope and joy that when I am dealing with something of that sort, it's really helpful for me to go to this space and kind of get inspiration from this character, Steven, who is going through similar things in the show, but still maintains this level of hope and joy that I just love it. I really just love it. But that aside, it's like pretty much every character is going through some sort of like breaking free of expectation, because all of them have some sort of way that they didn't fit into the crystal gem world, which is why they are back on Earth with Steven. And so that is definitely like what feels like a really playful version of my breaking free of expectations decks. Okay, the next prompt is a deck for embracing the shadow. And so for my first deck I want to show here, I instantly thought of the Lilifer Tarot. Just something about, I think Marion, Costentin, I'm so sorry. I'm not amazing with pronunciation. But she is also the creator of the, it's the black and pink one. Reclaim Oracle. It came to me. And I think I don't know, the way at least how I perceive she goes about her artwork and how it reads to me, just feels kind of shadowy. And that's where it really hits for me, which I wasn't expecting when I first got this deck when it came out because of all the colors, but it is based around Lilith, the characters of Lilith and Lucifer, which I also think inherently have this theming of embracing the shadow. I've done a lot of reading into the figure of Lilith, and I think it started to make sense why this deck really falls in this place for me, because I think that feels to me, at least, like a lot of what she represents is instead of running from these shadowy parts of ourselves and seeing them as negative and seeing them as bad, to really sort of look at them head on and embrace them and just look at them in this neutral way, which is, I also really then like that there is so much color in here, because I think it just is this little reminder to my brain of, okay, just because we are looking at shadow right now doesn't mean it's scary and inherently bad. I just, personally, my personal belief is that nothing about myself is inherently bad. I don't know, is that a crazy, you know when you say something and you're like, is that a crazy thing to say? But I don't know, I think it's more helpful to me to look at things very neutrally. And I think it's because, again, I'm looking at this villain era idea very much relating to an unmasking journey I'm going through. And I think for me, the need to look at things so neutrally is because I've spent so long thinking parts of myself that I was never going to be able to change or help were bad qualities. And so all the color in this deck really reminds me that instead of looking at the shadow as something that needs to also just be gotten rid of, that there can be color there, you know? I don't know. That maybe there's some good to be found in the shadow of what's hidden. Maybe what's hidden is the good thing. I don't know, there's so many ways, different ways I think about it, and it all depends on the situation, but I think maybe that's just where I'm at right now, is like, well, maybe what's been hidden this whole time has been the thing that should have been in the light. These things that I suppress and try to put away. And so I really love this deck for that kind of work, because all this color reminds me of that feature. And I love the guidebook. Again, just something about Marion Costentin. So sorry, I struggle with when there's S's and N's in the same word. I have trouble with that. So anyways, that is the Lilifer Tarot. And my second deck, for the deck that feels a little bit more playful to me, it's the Deviant Moon, which I love this little bag I made for it. I love just everything about the Deviant Moon, but like the size and shape of it, I love so much. The like long, tall cards. I keep thinking about getting the mini size they just came out with, but I'm like, ooh, I don't know if it'd be the same, because I just love this size. Anyway, I put this in the playful category, where I think maybe a lot of people use this deck as, would more use this as like their serious work, shadow work deck. I think these images just make me laugh a lot of the times. Like, I love Patrick Valenza's artwork, but it's like my brain finds it really funny and silly and both light-hearted but dark at the same time. You know what it feels like the epitome of dark humor. But this really does feel like an embracing of the shadow, and I have felt even more strongly that way when I finally got that big coffee table guidebook that you can get to go with it. Which, if you haven't tried that and you've been thinking about it, I totally recommend because it really, really changed the game for me with this deck. I liked it before well enough, but I really felt like it started to work with me getting that full guidebook. And it's something where it's like I have read so many of the entries, and when I read with this deck, sometimes I don't even need to pull it out again because I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this story with that. And I think that the feature of that guidebook is that it takes these characters and really brings them to life. But why I feel it is an embracing the shadow deck is because by the characters being brought to life, it just really humanizes them. So instead of seeing them as these like scary, shadowy figures, you're getting this whole story as to why it is they're doing what they're doing. And again, it just brings them to such this like normal human scope of like, it's just, I don't know, a lot, at least when I'm using it, it's like so many of the stories I'm like, yeah, I've been there too. Like I have felt that way, or I've done things like that too. And so it just really, I don't know, it doesn't feel so scary once I get those stories and really know what's going on in these cards. It just really kind of humanized it for me. And brought it to like, I guess by that I mean it brought it to this like everyday level. And so I really love using this deck in that way. And also I think too, it's like all of these characters they're a bit strange, they're a bit out of place. And so when I'm feeling that way and really feel like I want to embrace that feeling instead of pushing it away, this deck really helps do that. So that is my second deck for embracing the shadow, and it is the Deviant Moon Tarot. Alright, so the next prompt is a deck for speaking the truth. And my more serious selection is the 5-cent tarot. This is the second edition. I don't know, I think this is one, I love how it's set up in this like fortune teller kind of way. We've got the blue backs. Now this is, anytime I feel like there is a tag with a prompt about truth telling, this is the deck I always bring up because I only ever use this if I am looking for an answer. But like, it's like, obviously a lot of times we go to tarot looking for answers, but it's when I'm in that mood of like, I don't want to do self-reflection. I don't want to have to sit and think about the meaning of this. I have a question and I want you to tell me what you think. And this deck is always going to tell me what it thinks. It's the only deck I use reversals in because, as you can see, it is kind of really meant to be used that way. Not that you have to, but it has both upright and reversed keywords built into the artwork, which I think is so beautiful. I love just the whole vibe of this deck, but she is sassy. Oh my gosh, does this deck tell me like it is? And a lot of times it's not what I want to hear. And I think that's really the key feature of this. It's like, there's some decks I have where I'm like, I can use this right now, but I know somehow, some way, it's just going to tell me what I want to hear. Not necessarily what I need to hear right now. Where this is bringing the cold hard truth 100% of the time, and I think is especially important when I'm in that honestly kind of bratty mood of like, I don't want to have to think. I don't want to have to interpret and find the symbolism and greater message here. I just don't want to do this thing, and I want you to tell me if that's fine. And boy, does it deliver. Yeah, it's a really just straight up honest deck, and we love her for it most of the time. So that is the 5-cent tarot. And now my more playful version is very new to me, but slotted into this kind of reading so quick. And it is the Sassy Dragons Tarot by Peggy Papez, specifically the Not Safe for Work edition. It's so funny, like, I think when I showed this, I kind of said like, like there's not necessarily like a rhyme or reason why I use one or the other. Well, it took like a week. Truly took a week, and then it was like, oh no, that was wrong. They have their different purposes, because the classic edition ended up really being one that was great for kind of like, more like self-soothing, like greater understanding of myself type of readings, where this not safe for work version really came in as like the, here's what you need to hear right now, like buckle up, buttercup, truly. And so also, I guess, language warning for this one, but oh my gosh, but at the same time it's packaged as these adorable dragons, so it definitely feels more playful, and I love it for that. It's like, it's perfect for when I'm like, okay, I really need to be told like it is, but I really want to look at something cute. You know what I mean? But also too, just the way Peggy writes the captions right on here, because that's the thing too. It's like when I'm in this mood of like, I just don't want to. I don't want to think. I want to be just told. This has the message right on the cards, which is perfect for that. But the way Peggy writes these messages, it's like, I'm getting the truth, but it cracks me up every time. She's just so funny with these things she has to say. And even when it's not what I want to hear, I can at least now acknowledge that it was delivered in a very funny way. And so this definitely feels a lot more playful because of that. Of like, all right, I still don't need to take this too seriously. And I think that's the beauty of really just the Sassy Dragons set in general, is that it feels like we don't have to take this so seriously. We can get our message right on the cards, be told like it is in the most wonderfully sassy, cute way, and that's just as effective. And in those moments for me, feels even more effective. And I just, like, I mean, come on. So good, so good. So that is my second deck for telling the truth. That's the Not Safe for Work edition of the Sassy Dragons Tarot. Next up, we have a deck for personal power, and I should definitely mention, because I feel like I might have already, but I've definitely repeated some decks either from Dawn or Tegan. I'm not sure, but they just fit the bill. What can I say? So my first deck for that I really love to use for personal power is the Wolfe Tarot. And now this, we also have a lot of nudity in this, so gosh, warning again, 3 warnings, 1 video. Who am I? Anyway, so again, something about the nudity, feels a little, it's out of my comfort zone, feels a little uncomfy for me. But when it comes to this personal power topic, that is exactly what I need, because that idea of like personal power, and this deck really feels like the concept or feeling of like fierce femininity, and that's not really something I have totally ever felt like I've embodied, but it's something I am learning in my own kind of way. And so when I just want to do a reading, words are not coming to me. I was gonna say around personal power, but obviously I feel like this is a deck I come to when I am in a space of really doubting myself, doubting my just place in what I'm doing. This deck really reminds me of a feeling of personal power, and I think it's helping me to discover what personal power even just feels like to me. Because again, it's like I relate this to deck to like this like idea of like fierce femininity, and that isn't something I've necessarily felt before, but just even thinking through it right now, it's like, well, maybe that's just not how it shows up for me, and that's fine. And this deck helps me kind of work through what that feels like in that moment, where I can find that feeling as well of personal power when I'm feeling just small. And that's something that really comes up a lot in my villain era experience of unmasking, because part of that has also come with me needing to rely on others in just bigger ways than I've ever had to, of just with the support I'm discovering I really do need. It comes with some needing to work through some feelings of feeling like that's losing personal power in some way, but it's not. It's not. I mean, technically, in some ways, yes, I suppose, but it's just been this process of relearning what that looks like for me. And that doesn't look like needing to, you know, do everything myself and take care of things that everyone else seems like they're able to take care of by themselves. Got interrupted. Don't remember what I was saying. Rats. Anyway, I've been chatty this video. I don't know if it's so much as chatty or just like talking myself in circles. So yeah, definitely the deck I come to for just like even discovery around personal power. I think I'm just in a mode of like figuring out what that looks like for me. But yeah, really love this one. That is the Wolfe Tarot. Now, my other option I like for this kind of topic that is a bit more playful is the Tarot for Cats. And now I do think this might be out of print, so apologies if that is the case. But this is another majors only, actually. But the way this just captures cat energy so well. Another great option for this would be just the Cat Tarot. Is this what this is called too? No, Tarot for Cats. The Cat Tarot by Megan... something with a K. Can't remember. But this was my pick for this. Anyway, so this feels like a personal power deck because when I get the guidebook is written in such a way where it is a message coming directly from the cat in the picture. And you could just tell whoever made it is such a cat lover, knows cats so well, knows cat behavior so well, because it is so spot on and just really captures that like sassy, powerful energy that cats really do have. And so I don't know, when I thought of personal power, I was like, oh yeah, like cats, yes. I think they are a great example of embracing personal power and really sticking to your personal power. And I feel like I find a lot of inspiration in cats, honestly, because there is no one better than setting boundaries, telling you what they want, telling you how it is, like cats. They're so magical in that way. And so this one was a really obvious choice, and it cracks me up. Reading the guidebook cracks me up. I love getting a message from these cats. It's genius. I love it. And I think cats have a great lesson to teach in personal power. So that is my second deck for a deck for personal power, and that is the Tarot for Cats. Our last prompt is a deck for resilience. Now, my deck choice on a more serious note is the Unfinished Business Tarot, which, yes, resilience maybe doesn't totally make sense because all of the figures on every card are meant to be people who have passed in some way. It is images of their ghost or spirit, however you want to see it. So does that really like scream resilience? I guess not in like the textbook definition, but I find this to be a fantastic deck for doing readings around the idea of resilience, because every card comes with the unique story of the characters in this deck, and really it always ends to like kind of what did lead up to their death. And we get all different kinds of stories, of course, but oh, what was my point here? Oh. Whenever I talk about this deck, I always say that the stories just really, really stick with me. Like, it's almost where I do not have a great memory, but something about these stories and just the effect they have, it's like it's almost hard to forget them. And I think why I kind of paired this with the idea of resilience is because it really feels like, to me, it's through the stories of these characters' lives and the certain choices they make, it's supposed to be lessons for the reader. Again, that's how I feel about it. It feels like I am receiving this lesson from someone else's lifetime, and depending on the card, of course, of like, how would I choose, would I choose the same? Would I choose differently? It's almost like with this deck and doing readings with this deck, it's giving me the chance for resilience that maybe this character did or didn't have. Because some of them do really show resilience, not to say that just because they have all passed, that means they weren't resilient. Not at all what I'm trying to say. A lot of these cards show a lot of like bravery and resilience, and some of them don't. And so, but again, when it comes down to it, it feels like these lessons in resilience, or perhaps how a choice could have been made differently to show resilience. And it just feels like this opportunity to learn from these characters and their stories, and it just really sticks with me. And so it also feels like resilience in that way, where it's like a story that sticks with me no matter what, which feels, resilient in and of itself. So that is my first choice for a deck for resilience. That is the Unfinished Business Tarot. And last but not least, we're gonna end with Old Faithful here, because my more like playful pick for a deck for resilience is none other than the Adventure Time Tarot. Are we surprised that she shows up once again? But there's so many reasons why this stuck out to me as a deck for resilience. One, I think when I feel like I need to be resilient, this is the deck that just helps me do that. It feels really grounding, centering, stabilizing to me because of just how I feel about the show Adventure Time. And so it helps me to be resilient just in and of itself. But then also, the show it is based around, the two main characters, Finn and Jake, show a lot of resilience. If you haven't seen the show, I don't even know how to sum it up, but basically each episode is themed around Finn and Jake just kind of saying what adventure are we going to have today? They have an adventure every single day. They truly started off by being it's adventure time, because they seek out an adventure every day. And that leads them into some really wacky, crazy, sometimes scary situations. But the way it's they show bravery in just every which way. And always manage to make it through all of these situations and still wake up the next day and say, oh, what adventure are we gonna have now? And I just feel like there's so much, they show so much resilience. Now, I understand they are fictional characters. I know. But that's just how I've come to see it, of I mean, this tower. This is a really scary character that they had to battle in the show. And I just have this image of them doing that, going to sleep, and then waking up still saying, okay, time for another adventure. But then they also both throughout the show face different fears and all sorts of emotions that, I don't know, it just shows a lot of bravery, and they're always willing to go after what they want and face whatever they have to face. It's just not even a question. It's like whatever task they are set on or they have been given, it's like they're going to see it through no matter what. And it's like they don't question their own ability to do it. It's this thing of like, well, of course we can do anything they believe they can. And I love the whole theme of the show in that way. And so that is my second deck, my playful deck for a deck for resilience, and that is the Totally Unofficial Adventure Time Tarot. And that, my friends, was the last prompt. So that's the last thing I have to show today. I feel like this was really chatty in all different directions. I'm having quite the brain day today, apparently. But I had fun. I hope you did too. I love this tag. I love this whole idea. I feel like this is something I'm really gonna sit with, so thank you very much to Dawn, Michelle, and Tegan for putting this out into the world. I love it. I love it so much. But other than that, I hope you're having a fantastic day so far, and I'll see you again very soon.